I'm going to be the one who says it in this community if no one else has. For all my podcasters, for all my creatives in our Podern family, for the ones who so often are fine talking about social media and TV and what's going on Love and Hip Hop and Basketball Wives, if that's even still a thing, and you don't have a fucking voice on this, I'm not fucking listening to you anymore. Like I said, I understand the point of not wanting on your platform to talk about it depending on what type of content you cover, but at the same time, you have a platform. If you're not speaking out on it, you get held to the same regard as white people who are being silent on this, in my opinion. All right, so we're back in the main discussion topic for this week's episode, and I kind of wanted to talk about some of the riots. Not necessarily just that. I want to talk because people will ask, especially our white counterparts, well, why are people so angry? Why do you again, I want to make sure that I point out, I don't agree with looting and rioting personally. I understand it, but it's not something that I would ever suggest or a route that I would go with things. As you guys know here, I'm very, I like to call myself an intellectual, but I'm very much so on the bandwagon of conversation, standing up, using politics the correct way. But I want to say, while this isn't a route I would lead people to go, it is a route that I fully understand why people feel like this is what needs to happen, why people are so tense in what they're feeling, and why people are just fed the fuck up. So we're gonna get into a timeline, right? I'm just gonna go back to 2015. So this is last 5 years basically. July 13th, 2015, Sandra Bland is found hung in her cell, or hanged, not sure how you're supposed to say it, after dash cam shows her arrest. That's 2015. 2016, in Minnesota, Philandro Castile is shot during a traffic stop in which he was not driving and did not commit a crime. Still in 2016. July 5th, 2016, in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, officer shoots 37-year-old Alton Sterling as he lays down on the ground and is already restrained by officers. Still in 2016, August 1st, 2016, after police or authorities got Facebook and Instagram to shut down a live feed of Corn Gaines in a standoff with the police, the officers burst in her home and shot her dead as she holds her son in her arms. No one is convicted of a crime in that case either. September 16th, 2016, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Betty Shelby shoots Terrence Crutcher and is acquitted of first-degree manslaughter. March 18th, 2018, in Sacramento, 23-year-old Stephen Clark is shot 8 times. No one was charged in his death. September 6th, 2018, Amber Geiger walks in the home of Botham Jean and shoots him dead. She's convicted of murder, though, in this case, for up to 10 years in prison. October 12th, 2019, in Fort Worth, Texas, Aaron Dean shoots Atiana Jefferson, I never say her name right, Jefferson, through the window, killing her. Dean is fired and charged with murder. February 23rd, 2020. Ahmaud Arbery is killed after vigilantes chase him down, and no one was arrested for 2 months up until after his death. March 13th, 2020, in Louisville, Kentucky, Jonathan Mattingly, Brett Hackinson, and Miles Crossgrove entered the apartment of 26-year-old Breonna Taylor to serve a no-knock warrant on her boyfriend and shoot her dead. No one has been charged in her death yet. May 25th, 2020. George Floyd kneels on is held down basically by his neck and knee to the back of his neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. 2 minutes and 53 seconds of that were after he was already unconscious. He dies. As of right now, I think the last thing the coroner says that asphyxiation was not a cause of his death. We'll talk about that too. May 27th, 2020, Minneapolis residents say F all this shit, and now we lead to where we are now with riots across the country. That is just a breakdown of the last, 5 years. 5 years, a little less than 5 years actually, because I think the first case that I gave was in July 2015, and I just cut it off from there because I needed a cutoff point. We could easily go back to riots in 1919. We can go back to the slaughter of Black Wall Street. There's so many times in which you can point out, and there's something that I talked about in mentality. It's something that we talked about before. We have an inherent genetic, generational PTSD that's passed down in our culture for Black people. So just think about that. When you sit there and you say you don't understand why a group of people are so fed the fuck up, listen to what I just said. And those are just major cases. You're right. Those are the ones that have gotten the most press. Those are the ones who've gotten the most mainstream media attention. There's probably hundreds of more cases that we can pull out if we sit there and decided to just weed out every case of police death in questionable means, questionable situations of young Black people. And then you sit there and you wonder why we're so upset. You sit there and you wonder why we're rioting. Like I said again, I don't agree. I don't personally think that that's the route that I would go. But if you don't understand it, and then you look at how now, even in a time where we're high tension, right? Even in a time where we're frustrated, people sit there and wonder why we're so distrusting when you have, I believe it was in Dallas, Texas, a situation in which they knew people were going to be protesting and a random pallet of bricks pops up. No construction in the area, no reason why people are pushing this forward and are being provocateurs and trying to get this to escalate even further than what it is. And it's so obvious, and thank God people are waking up to it now. Like there's situations, like I said, the thing with the pallet of bricks. Then there was another situation in which people it was a group of people, and some of them were in the car, another one was out, and they were asked like, "Hey, are you undercover cop?" No, I'm with CNN. He immediately went over to his people and were like, "Hey, are you guys undercover cops?" And the other ones kind of looked around, was like, "Are you guys members of CNN?" And was like, "No." And his friend just said that they were part of CNN. They were part of the news. You have these undercover cops who are there waiting and instigating things that are going on. So when you tell us that we don't have a reason to be distrustful, hell, we got to be distrustful even when we are rioting, even when we are doing shit. There are still people that are trying to push it forward and make it happen and escalate even more than what it would be. You can't sit here and turn the blind eye to what the fuck is going on. And that's why, like, people, I hope you guys are paying attention to your celebrities, the celebrities that you guys herald so much and look up to, and they're your moral compass, and the ones that have been quiet on this, the brands that have been quiet on this. When you look at a system that is inherently built for us not to succeed, and then wonder why we get fed up when not only can we not succeed, but we have to worry about holding on to our lives. And at every step of this, every time another young Black man, woman loses their life and is on videotape, we've inched closer and closer and closer to this. And like I said in my Haize segment, I want to make sure that I point out they want us to be divided, and they're doing a damn good job at it. We do at some point have to come together. We do. If we want to make real change happen, at some point, we're going to have to try to bridge some of these gaps and come together. But at the same time, we can't do that if you sit on your hands and you're quiet when lives are being lost, but you're very boisterous when you got tired of a football game getting interrupted by kneeling. Let's make that make sense. And hell, one thing that I point out all the time, Don't Fuck with Cats, which is a great documentary on Netflix, by the way. a group of people got so upset when they saw a cat get murdered on the internet that they found this man. The police couldn't find him. FBI, I think, was involved, couldn't find him. But a group of people on Facebook pinpointed this where this man was down to the building in the background. But yet, when a young black person loses their life, it comes and goes unless we make it known and we're very loud about it. That's the inherent issue that people are frustrated and tired of. Where the life of a cat upsets more people than black men losing their lives until it gets to this point. Let's just think about that. And again, I don't say that to divide us. I say that so people can realize these inherent biases and we can do something about it. Because just sitting around and not talking about it isn't going to do shit. When people don't understand and they want to look more at the results of what's happening than the issue, that is a problem for me. And I've said it. I've for those of you who follow me on social media, I went on a rant because people, as someone who has my father's white, people ask all the time, like, how do you feel about this? What's this situation? What's your family like? And there's a reason why you don't see me fuck with them. And I'll leave that at that. I'm not going to put family business out. But there's a reason why, other than my father, who does speak out on shit like this, that you don't see me really fuck with many other people on that side of my family. But let's stay focused on what else is going on. Like Netflix. I'm going to read a tweet from Netflix. To be silent is to be complicit. Black Lives Matter. We have a platform and we have a duty to our black members, employees, creators, and talent to speak up. Nike, I think, had an ad up within like 24 hours. And you know, I've come down on Nike before because I think sometimes they try to jump on bandwagons, but story for another day. We need solidarity. We need to come together. This is a time where the people who are speaking out, what Chris Evans, and I'm sorry, I'm at a loss. It was somebody else as well, spoke out as well. This is a time where, yes, we need to call out the biases that other races have to where they don't understand the plight of what we're going through. But we also need to appreciate the ones that are using their platform, using their stage to stand up. Stars as well. Another tweet from Stars. We cannot stand silent while our black communities continue to suffer under the weight of violence, discrimination, and injustice. Color of Change and the NAACP are among the organizations taking the lead in the fight for racial justice in America. We support them in their mission, and you can too. Visit colorofchange.org and NAACP.org to donate. Ava DuVernay, definitely, you know, she's had deals with Netflix and she's going to be doing more work with them. And she commented, well done on their thing. Black Lives, HBO, also with their quote, we stand with our black colleagues, employees, fans, actors, and storytellers. Hulu's come out and said something as well. We need to make sure, like, these are the companies now. I know they're talking about a blackout on July 7th. Of not purchasing any money. And, you know, if you do that, hats off to you, support it. But at the same time, when now we're as we're looking to go forward and we're looking to who we're going to put our money into and what we're going to support, this is the time. This is the time. LeBron, and you guys know, as a player, I'm not a supporter of LeBron, but when it comes to social issues, when it comes to basically everything else other than basketball, I love LeBron James because he always speaks out on stuff like this. And at the same time, I'm going to be the one who says it in this community if no one else has. For all my podcasters, for all my creatives in our Podern family, for the ones who so often are fine talking about social media and TV and what's going on love and hip hop and basketball wives, if that's even still a thing, and you don't have a fucking voice on this, I'm not fucking listening to you anymore. Like I said, I understand the point of not wanting on your platform to talk about it depending on what type of content you cover, but at the same time, you have a platform. If you're not speaking out on it, you get held to the same regard as white people who are being silent on this, in my opinion. That's the route I'm going with it. I don't give a fuck if your skin color is the same as mine. If you are quiet and you sit down on this and you don't have anything to offer to a real situation, but you're the first one on the timeline being messy, fuck you. That's for me. Now, let's talk about the other aspect of this. The looting and robbing going down that's affecting black businesses. This is part of the reason why I don't why I say that rioting, well, not rioting, but looting is not necessarily a thing that I would go for, is because it also affects us. And a lot of times we loot in our own communities, right? And it affects us in the long run. And so that's part of the reason why I don't know if there's some type of way for us to mark the black businesses so they aren't affected if people are going to be looting and rioting and throwing bricks through windows, because, you know, we have people who are now losing their life savings, what they built up to, what they saved to this, to a cause that is ultimately meant to help better their situation. So, you know, I think that that's just one of the reasons why I look at it. And again, that's not going to happen all the time, and I understand that. I don't want to act like this is a situation that is very common, that we sit there and limit other black businesses. But I really do want us to take a look at that as well. Like, and that's why I say there is protest. I'm all for. That's one thing. When I think of the word riot, I think of like fighting and like I said, throwing bricks through things and damaging property and XYZ. And like I say, I understand it, but we also need to understand that when we do that blindly, that we're affecting our own businesses as well and our own communities as well. And, you know, sometimes I think too, and this is something that we've seen, that there was actually, like in one case, I believe it was in, don't give me the line, I don't remember which city it was in. I've been watching so much stuff, but there was evidence and video of the first person to start breaking down a window was a white guy. And of course the news won't say that, because of course they're just going to lump it as black people are rioting, they threw windows and XYZ. But it was like, again, that escalation. We need to stay alert and make sure that in our anger, in our desire to cause change, we are not allowing ourselves to be used as tools that are ultimately going to hurt us through narratives that mainstream media wants to take. You gotta look at stuff like this. There are people who are being provocateurs in this case, and everything else. Now, one thing that I do want to talk about is the medical report. Give me a second to get that pulled up, because I think one of the things that you know, like in my city, there was a curfew planted in my city last night. It was from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. And I think personally that was because that medical examiner's report came out in the George Floyd case. And they were worried, oh shit, people are going to really be fucking upset now. And you're goddamn right. I'm pulling it up now. Excuse me. I know this isn't greatest podcasting or viewers for the ones who are watching on YouTube to see me to pull something up. I apologize I didn't have this up already. All right. So what we have here, during the preliminary findings, the county medical examiner's office determined that George Floyd likely died from a combination of underlying health issues, being restrained by police, and any potential intoxicants that were in his system. And so there was no physical evidence that he died of asphyxia or strangulation. God damn, I just make up words. I get that from my mom. She makes up words all the time. And so the attorney that they are going to be going with a independent medical examiner for another autopsy. Um, and what I want to say in a case like this, you see them laying down, and I'm a bit of a conspiracy theorist. So, and if you want to listen to more, listen to the Infinite Fringe. That's my good friend Billy Ray Valentine. But what I do want to say on this is that they're laying the groundwork for the police officer in this case to get away scot-free. That's absolutely what I feel and what I think. I'd like to separate the facts from my feelings and thoughts. So what I want to say is my thoughts on is the fix is in. Anyone who's a boxing or wrestling fan, they know what that means. The fix is in, meaning they are laying the groundwork to completely pull the wool over our eyes and for this motherfucker to get off. That's my personal feeling on this. The facts in this, however, they really don't differentiate from my thoughts very much, but when you see video evidence of the knee being to the back of his neck, I said earlier, he was unconscious for almost 3 minutes before it was taken off of his neck. So when you sit there and you have this medical report that now says that he actually didn't die from asphyxiation, he died from a combination of other things, to me, you're giving them the defense their defense, right? You're giving the cop and whoever is going to be his lawyer their defense to say that he actually does not need to go to jail for murder. And then they wonder why we're so fucking upset. They wonder that, right? It's bullshit. In my opinion. Again, that's my opinion. This is complete and utter bullshit. But this continues. This is going to continue the divide. This is going to continue us being upset and right. It's like, can you imagine how bad it's going to be when this cop's trial, even if it's a year from now, however long it is from now, if he gets a not guilty verdict and what this country is going to look like at that point? Just think about it. Just think about it. It's fucking wild is what it is. It's crazy. It's disheartening. It's saddening. Even to be can you imagine being that family? And you know, now like stuff's coming out that he possibly done porn. Like I said, the fix is in. They are coming through and they're going to start coming with all types of wild information from his past and everything to try to cast doubt on why maybe he wasn't the most innocent person in the world. Just think about that. This shit's crazy, man. It really fucking is. It's wild and it's crazy. And so another thing that I want to talk about with this, right? And again, this goes into my conspiracy theorist side. So this may be something that you guys may agree with or may not. We were in status of quarantine, right? There were stay home orders. We're in the middle of a pandemic. Everything's going on with that on top of. So when you look at people losing their jobs, people being stuck at home, so now they're consuming more media, probably more than likely. Then something like this happens. People are already scared of how they're going to feed, when the world's going to go back to normal. They're nervous about if they may get sick in the pandemic, money, family, possibly where they're going to be able to continue living. When you throw all that into it and add racism is like the salt on top of it, right? Like they sprinkled a little racism on it, and it just, everything is now just this perfect storm of bullshit. But my question that I want to ask on this, right? And this is for all my people who don't think that coronavirus is a real thing. We've now had riotings. We've had hundreds of people grouped together. If there's not a spike in coronavirus after this shit, what's that going to make you think, right? Because we just got done with like social distancing is the law right now. But people are definitely breaking that for this. Now, again, I'm a bit of a conspiracy theorist. I'm not as big as some people in the alternative media space are, but it makes you think, right? Because if there's not a huge spike on it after this, then all this shit was bullshit. But again, that's just me getting into my own personal thoughts and crazy shit that I think about on a day-to-day basis. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting summer. And I hate using the the phrase, it's gonna be a hot summer, but it really, really fucking is. Like, we really have to be intentional on how we move. We got to be intentional on what we speak. We got to call the shit out. I'm not saying that we don't need to. Speak out, speak loudly, speak proudly, speak intelligently on what you think and feel, and call the shit out. We've had Amish people come out against it. Witches come out in support of black people. Batman showed up somewhere. Like, it was fucking crazy. And I tried to, I said that to try to lighten the mood before we go. Sorry, to lighten the mood some before we go home. But it's serious, man. This shit is real. And you have to pay attention. You have to pay attention and look at what the media is doing to help continue this divide. And I'm glad that, like, at least on my timeline, I've seen, like, when certain outlets depicted wrong, like we had the woman in the wheelchair who wasn't actually crippled. She actually stabbed people too. Like, people were actually calling it out and speaking on it, and not just black people. Those are the times that it does make you see that we can work together. There are people who are tired of this, who aren't just black. And I'm glad for those people. I'm glad that they're speaking out. But at the same time, this is something that we've had to live. The inherent PTSD of the African American is something that people, unless you're in it, you won't understand it. And it's hard to explain, but it's that generational PTSD that lives in us, that is inherent into the way that we live and we have to operate. And when you see situations like this, when the shit just keeps going and keeps going and keeps going, it's going to continue. It's going to continue. We have to continue to call this shit out. Again, for anyone who's like wanting to see alternative media from mainstream media from this, Politico is a website I go to a lot. Above Top Secret is a website I go to a lot. And this thing is going to continue to spread more than likely. The Atlanta mayor's come out and said, if you love the city, go home. And I get that to a certain degree. I understand there's going to be a lot of trying to calm it down right now, to let the fires die down, in real life and the metaphorical fires. But it's going to be a tough week ahead, at least. Other countries are seeing this and speaking out now. It's going to continue to get real. It's going to continue to get real. For anyone who's like participated in a protest, participated in a riot, I'd love to hear from you. You can contact us, theawakensoulpod@gmail.com. We also have a phone number. You can leave a voicemail. You can text us. It's 614-547-2039 is the line number. You can, like I said, text, voicemail. You can call. I may even surprise you and answer. But I wish and I hope that everyone stays as safe as possible through these times. Keep your kids and your family safe. And this is a time where, as black men, we need to be talking to our sons. We need to be doing that anyway. But if this doesn't wake you up and make you realize how you need to talk to your sons and your daughters and just get your kids prepared. Sometimes it sucks because we have to burst that bubble of oblivion for them and let them know what it really is. And we are in one of those times, unfortunately. So, like I said, I'd love to hear from you guys. I know I got a bit fired up. I'm sorry if I popped your eardrums, because I know it probably got loud and passionate there for a second. But again, if you want to follow the podcast, you can do so at Awaken Soul Pod or at The Awaken Soul Pod. You can also send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, theawakensoulpod@gmail.com. You can follow me at CEO Haize, CEOHAIZE. Make sure you go to thebreaksmedianetwork.com as well, where you can find this podcast as well as all the podcasts that are part of our lovely and passionate network. That's it. This has been The Awakened Soul, the #1 podcast, period, point blank. I will see you lovely and beautiful people next week if I don't do a midweek follow-up, just depending on what all happens. But that's it. I'm out. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Breaks Media.